From Eyewitness News, this is Newsmakers.
Voters in Fall River said it loud and clear. They want a fresh start. In the wake of the federal extortion case against outgoing Mayor Jaisal Correa, the vast majority of voters choosing Paul Coogan to take over in January. But Coogan will be the 8th person to serve as mayor in barely 12 years. What is his vision to end the drama at Government Center? This week on the first half of Newsmakers, Fall River Mayor-elect Paul Coogan. Then, revenue is down at TF Green, but the head of the Airport Corporation says some of that is intentional. This week on the second half of Newsmakers, Susan Campbell's interview with Rhode Island Airport Corporation CEO Iftikhar Ahmed. Hello and welcome to Newsmakers. I'm Tim White. Joining me on the program, Eyewitness News reporter Ted Nesi. Mayor-elect Paul Coogan, congratulations on your victory. I understand it went much better than your city council race in the 1970s.
Yeah. I got hammered back then, so we lost a tough one in the recall, and this one went very, very well.
Well, it only took 40 years, so congratulations.
Longevity might count for something. We'll go with that.
So I was reading the Fall River Herald News this morning. We're taping on a Friday, and reporter Joe Good wrote about a 3-hour meeting you had at Government Center on Thursday. I guess we'll call it a transition meeting, for lack of a better word. Any surprises out of that meeting?
Not really. It was more people were describing their roles and their responsibilities and on the 6th floor working for the mayor. We had Corporation Counsel there, went over the pending cases that are sitting out there that he's working on, and most of the time it was things that are going to come rolling across my desk and what to get ready for. It was a very long, detailed meeting, but it set me up well for the rest of the day.
Is there a thing at the top of your list? Obviously staffing. So put staffing aside. You have to fill jobs and whatnot. From a policy perspective, either coming out of that meeting or you might have known it going into it, what's the number one thing on your list as mayor that you got to tackle this one?
Climate and morale. People in Fall River have been battered senseless by a string of these crazy indictments and things, and I think that that's what they want. They want some stability. I believe that was part of the reason they voted for me, and they want someone that's sincere and honest and going to talk to them just like we're talking today. Straight up, this is what I believe, and that's what we're going to do, and we will definitely be very, very high in the integrity front. We are not going to be involved with anything, but people want to know their leaders are working for them, not themselves.
What do you think is the biggest, and I wouldn't disagree that climate morale is number one, what do you think is the biggest policy challenge for you as the new mayor of Fall River when you think of just the brass tacks of being a mayor, taxes, the schools, the roads, things like that? What do you see as the biggest challenge right now you'll be facing on that front?
I see what happens in politics is they ask you one, and then I get hit by everybody else that thinks theirs is number one because you didn't put mine first. So I look at it more like a wheel with a bunch of spokes. You obviously have all those infrastructure issues, education, public safety, the opioid crisis. I hear more about streets and roads and potholes than most of the things that would really appeal to me, but if that's what the public wants to talk about, we'll be talking about that. Yesterday we were working on something related to public safety right away, and we're going to dive head first into everything and do the best job we can.
So with public safety, are you going to keep your current police chief? You're going to make a change there?
I have not evaluated our current police chief. He's a friend of mine, but that doesn't give anybody carte blanche on what they're going to do. I will definitely be sitting down with him. We met once during the campaign and went over some things. I liked what I heard, but I will be meeting with him just as I will. Next Tuesday, we have a meeting with the department heads in Government Center. Yesterday, we walked the entire building, meeting the people that man the windows and clean the floors and shaking hands with them and introducing myself, and I'm going to be doing that throughout the city, and I guarantee you we will be meeting with the police chief and the fire chief and all those departments.
A lot of those people as you were walking around Government Center are probably worried they're going to lose their job.
Absolutely.
So what do you tell them?
It was the worst part of the last 5 weeks of this election. The last candidate up, one of the write-in candidates went around there telling people they were going to lose their job. It was an outrage because, as I said in the Herald News piece, these people have jobs, they want to buy groceries, they want to buy a car, they got rent, and we're going to do that to them? That never happened. I come from education where evaluations are very important. You can't let someone go unless you properly evaluate them and document their strengths and their weaknesses, and it's one of the biggest responsibilities in education. I'm not going to walk into someone and say, you worked for the former mayor, have a nice day. That's insanity. Matter of fact, I'm hearing some very good things about some of the department heads that did work for him, and they were very close to him. But if you're doing your job and you're working hard, you're not going to have a problem with me.
Have you picked a chief of staff yet?
I have picked the chief of staff. I think what we were talking about yesterday during the transition was Ann O'Neill Souza. She worked for...
she was chief of staff under Mayor Flanagan.
Mayor
right?
Flanagan, tremendous resource for me. She knows everybody in the building. I don't. I wish I did, but I don't. She's very comfortable with what goes on in her office, and she's helped me extensively. Actually, to tell you the truth, I really got to know Ann when we both worked over across the street at People Incorporated. I was a Smiles mentor recruiter part-time when I retired, and she was the director, and we ended up getting to know each other very well there. And she's got a tremendous work ethic. And I think she'd be an asset for me.
You, my understanding is you actually got a call from Mayor Correa, or whatever he is right now, like mayor but not acting as Mayor Correa, after the election. What was that conversation like?
It was fine. It was very positive. He was asking me if he could do anything. He'd be glad to help me. And as I told you guys off camera, we definitely butted heads over and over. He just wanted me to know congratulations and good luck in the future. It was probably a 40-second call. I wouldn't have even talked about it, but one of the reporters that night asked me right up front, and I wasn't going to say, oh, no, we didn't talk. And then he said we did. One of us looked like a nut, so I said, no, we did talk.
And have you heard from Governor Baker?
Actually, the lieutenant governor reached out, and we're scheduling a meeting right now, and I think the governor may come down also. I did hear from Senator Markey that night, Congressman Kennedy, Congressman Keating. Everybody wants to focus like a laser beam on Fall River and what we can do to strengthen the ties with the federal and state delegation, and we need their help, and welcome aboard.
Because one thing I've heard, and then I'll get back to Tim, but is that
Thanks.
part of the problem with what's gone on with Mayor Correa is all the other offices, the federal delegation, the governor's office, they almost couldn't work with Fall River because of the mayor's situation, and so I would think that maybe you'll be able to get more help from the state and federal officials now.
It's coming. It was very awkward for them. They didn't. I've heard that. Firsthand, I heard that at one of the functions I went to. The governor was there. They want to get back into Fall River. They want to help us, whatever we need. I mean, I'm supposed to be making a list of things that they want that I think might need some attention, and we'll get some things going.
Rattle off something that's on that list. It struck me in one of the reports you told Congressman Keating, because a Herald News reporter happened to be there. Sitting right there. Quote, we're going to need help.
We're going to need help.
From the federal government, what does that mean?
Housing. We have housing issues. A lot of our federally subsidized housing may need some renovations. I don't have any. Sorry, guys.
We should have told you to shut off your phone, but you're mayor-elect now. It's going to go off a lot.
It's ridiculous. If it goes off, I'm going to throw it. Housing, infrastructure. We all know it's kicking around the federal government for the last 2 years, a big infrastructure bill. We would love to get a piece of that to do something with the streets in Fall River. Education, whether they're federal loans or whatever, anything that they think can help us to make Fall River a better place to live, we will talk to them about. And they may have some ideas on their own that they've done in other communities, and we're open to those also.
You told the newspaper that corruption in Fall River has been going on for years, and Correa simply got caught. Correa is accused, as you know, of shaking down potential marijuana businesses for hundreds of thousands of dollars, and this is a wide-ranging scheme to sell his support for those businesses. He has pleaded not guilty, but when you say corruption has been going on for years...
I didn't say that.
Oh, okay, so that's a...
No, what I said was, people in Fall River say corruption's been going on for years. I think this was the largest wide-scale thing I've ever heard, but it hasn't. A lot of politicians are not corrupt, but the public thinks, oh, they're all doing it, and it's not so. I know plenty of people on the school committee and the city council and mayors that would never get involved with stuff like this. What was said was, I was talking about how people say corruption's been going on for years. Not to the scale and not like this, and not all politicians are corrupt, but some, you know what happens, people say everybody's corrupt, everyone's doing it. No, they're not all doing it. I'll never do that. It's not going to happen, and there's most of the people that I'm going to work with, and I know in politics, do not do that.
I don't want to litigate the Correa case, but obviously a big aspect here is these companies looking to get into Fall River, to open a pot shop allegedly paid bribes to the mayor, and we're not talking a couple $100, we're talking a couple $100,000. What should happen to the applications for the companies that are looking to come into Fall River? Should they be banned from starting a business in Fall River because of what allegedly happened?
Well, I think what's happened now, which is again a complete tragedy. We have the next one that was supposed to open up was up north, Hope Health and Heal. Now it's all on hold because the state is looking into these things. But there are people losing their jobs. They're being laid off this week. The same people that have to feed their children, pay their rent, they're losing their jobs. And it's like, because of one individual who decided to go down that road. Now, if they paid bribes and that comes out that they're the ones that are, you know, vendor 2 or vendor 3, the way they listed them in the indictment, I can't help them. But if they did it the right way, I would support them. I hope they get their license. But if they're into that kind of corruption, I guess we don't want them open in Fall River. I mean, the sad part is people are going to lose their jobs. They hired like 100 people up there, and some of them are getting bopped out now.
Go ahead.
I'm curious, you've actually been around politics a long time. As Tim mentioned, you ran for council in the 70s. You worked, I believe your uncle was a state lawmaker. Remind me the name?
John Long.
Okay, for people, long-timers might remember his name. I'm curious, as you think about you were an educator in the schools, who's your role model as mayor? You know, you know Fall River well. Who do you think did a good job as mayor in your lifetime? Who's someone you aspire to be like?
Eddie Lambert did a pretty good job. He was there 12 years. Carlton Viveris, I thought was an excellent mayor. I've talked to both of them. I get support from them. John Mitchell, I mean, he was a solid guy also.
We should say that's Fall River's John Mitchell, not the New Bedford
no,
mayor.
John Mitchell.
That's what I meant, yeah.
No. I think there's a number of good mayors. I think that there's a number of good people that get into the job. In Fall River, you got to remember, politics is a very, very rough sport. It's like the wild hunting dogs of Uganda. When you're out in front, they're going to keep coming until you are gone, and they keep coming, and that's what you're up against. So, you know, a lot of good people sometimes get into it, and they get frustrated, and they go a different direction. But we've had some good mayors. You know, I do get mad when people characterize every politician as corrupt or they're doing this for that reason. Some people are genuinely trying to help people.
Do you worry at all that you'll be seen as kind of the accidental mayor, the default mayor, because Jazel, you know, kind of ruled himself out by getting indicted repeatedly?
Well, what do you want me to do? If I see a gentleman in that office that I think I can do a better job than them, and I run in the recall election with the other 5 candidates, I didn't know if there was, we talked off air, there could have been 10. And I said, I was not even, this is the kicker, I wasn't even going to run again until I had some time to clear my head. But by the next afternoon, he had already fired us from the building committee, and I was like,
oh, right, yes.
What is this guy doing? So I said, no, I am running again, because you're not going to treat people like this. If that was one of my students at Durfee, I probably would have thrown him out of the building. You don't treat people like that. He wanted to wait and bide his time, have a conversation with me. I got a call from one of the other guys that was fired, say, you know, we both got fired a few minutes ago. I've never been fired in my life. And I was like, no, you can't run a city like this. You have to be better than that, and you have to go forward. I told Jazel when he called me to go back on, I said, there's politics and there's business. This is the business of building a school. You stay in your lane and you're okay. But he wanted it to be, oh, he ran against me, I have to get him back. And I totally disagree with that kind of philosophy. I'm not going to do that as mayor. There's not going to be get backs. It's going to be, you're going to help, get on the bus.
Fall River Mayor-elect Paul Coogan, again, congratulations and good luck to you when you start your term in January, correct? You were sworn in January. All right. When we come back, we're going to take a look at the Rhode Island Airport Corporation. Revenue is down, but is some of it on purpose? Stay with us. You're watching Newsmakers. Welcome back to Newsmakers. I'm Tim White. Earlier this week, my colleague Susan Campbell sat down with the head of the Rhode Island Airport Corporation. Revenue at TF Green is down, but Iftikhar Ahmed claims some of that is on purpose. Here is Susan Campbell's interview with the CEO of the Rhode Island Airport Corporation, Iftikhar Ahmed.
First of all, let's just jump in. Sure. Projections for next year they look like the revenue is just tanking. Yes. What's the explanation?
Well, this is by strategy. We're very proud of it.
Iftikhar Ahmed is the CEO of the Rhode Island Airport Corporation. He says part of his strategy is to reduce per passenger costs to airlines. Last year it was $9.63 per person. This year it's $6.50.
Cost of doing business in Rhode Island, we're trying to decrease that.
How does $6.50 compare to other airports?
Logan is at about $20.
If Logan can charge $20, why can't TF Green?
Well, because it is not good because look, we are a public entity, right? Our prime goal is not shareholders. We're not trying to make a profit here. Our mission is to protect Rhode Island, its economy, and it is for whatever is in the best interest of our public. We would like to attract these low-cost carriers here so they can provide these lower fares. And when they provide lower fares, the legacy carrier, which is American, Delta, Southwest, and United, they then compete with the low-cost carriers, and so all the fares come down, and that is good for the economy, is good for businesses. Their budgets go down, more people come in and out of TF Green. That means the hotels are full, the restaurants are full, all the other services with the dry cleaners and the rental cars and McDonald's, everybody benefits.
While you've lowered these costs, the number of passengers getting off planes and getting on planes here has also declined. Does it concern you that the number of passengers is going down?
We're looking at where the softening is. Lowering the cost of doing business for the airlines doesn't guarantee that people would buy the tickets. And so that's a separate issue. And I think that we need to focus on demand. So RIAC has increased its marketing funds by 300% by putting more money with our TV channels and with our other media, with billboards and such, to attract people.
Why is there a demand problem?
Well, see, there are really good reasons for it. It's a very good question. We got Pan Atlantic Research to come in. It's a very reputable consulting firm to do a study of, do people know where we're at? And we found out they didn't. And so based on the airline input and on that study of Pan Atlantic Research, we introduced a bill to change the name of the airport to Rhode Island International Airport. It didn't go through the first year, so we tried to do it again. It didn't go to the second year. So that is, when you don't know of about something, you can't buy it, and so you have to know where it is. And the other thing is the confusion of Rhode Island with Long Island. I don't have anything against Long Island. I'm just saying that I think people should know where we're at and what we have to offer.
Do you think a name change would increase demand immediately?
It would be one of the many things that we have to do to increase demand.
You've brought in some airlines that haven't been successful, pulled the routes almost immediately. Do you think they're going to be scared off from trying Providence again?
I think that a sustained growth in load factors, which is the onboard percent of people, right? If we keep hitting 90% load factors, I think that would build confidence out there about Rhode Island, about TF Green. If they think that they can make money here, they will absolutely do it. The best thing and the worst thing about their business is that their equipment has wings. So they can change their plans overnight.
Are you expecting any more cuts in the near future?
I don't expect any, next I'm looking at schedule for next 6 months is pretty much flat. If there is any expectation of any cuts, I think that would be on the Southwest side. And we keep talking to them, they're a good partner, but they have been cutting since 2005. We continue to meet with them, and hopefully at some point they will reverse the trend. But to answer your question, that's where I see the cuts coming.
Despite airline revenue tumbling by about 36%, overall, the total operating revenue for the airport for fiscal year 2020 is down about 15.5%. That means the airport is making up some revenue in things like rental cars, food and beverage, and rideshare fees.
In this business, we compare with Boston. Our fees and things are much, much lower than Boston. We're very, very competitive.
Give me a 5-year projection. Where do you see this airport?
If we could do certain things in a certain manner, and there is no recession, and the fuel stays where it's at or lower, because if fuel prices go up, then things get really sketchy. I think that we could be I would love to get to a 5 to 6 million passengers target, with about 35 or so nonstops, with about 10, 12 airlines.
Is that realistic?
Well, I wouldn't say that, I wouldn't answer that question if it is realistic. Is it our goal, and do we believe that it can happen? Yes, we do. I gotta tell you, I'm not happy with our market share with Logan, and it is bothersome. I understand why they pick up 40 million passengers and we get 4 million. It's just not acceptable here. Our team doesn't accept it, and we're trying different strategies, and we saw really good growth. But that 14% market share, we're looking for 14% market share. That is our goal.
Any new flights that we can expect announcements on?
So, well, I'm not going to answer that question that way. But what we are doing, do we meet with airlines to talk about it? Recently, Forbes magazine called me and they wanted to discuss TAP Portugal, because their CEO said that he would like to we will consider Providence for a Portugal flight, Lisbon flight. And so we continue to talk about 2 other airlines. But again, I'm going to say, I think that I think we need to take a pause, right? And instead of focusing so much on new flights, let's focus on, on marketing, and let's get that right. And my mother used to say that as long as you have your head, you can always find a cap. I think that we're trying to figure that one out. We need to create the demand so we can bring the supply and marry it, and so we can have a sustainable business.
That is Susan Campbell's interview with the CEO of the Rhode Island Airport Corporation, Iftikhar Ahmed. I'm joined by Eyewitness News reporter Ted Nesi. If you are interested, by the way, in more getting deeper into the numbers of the Rhode Island Airport Corporation, just log onto our website, WPRI.com. Our colleague Eli Sherman has put together a bunch of, man after your own heart, Ted, put together a bunch of charts
I think I hired
and graphs that you can see on your screen coming up right now. Urge you to read that, actually. And I urge, Ted, people to take a look at that, because TF Green is hugely important to Rhode Island, not just to, as you like to joke, getting people to Florida in January, right?
Right.
But also as part of the larger economic strategy of the state.
Yeah, this is something that's really been brought home to me the last few years, Tim, covering the Raimondo administration's economic development efforts, that one of the things that comes up over and over, I'm always told, when executives from out-of-state companies come and consider Rhode Island, is they look at the airport and they say, you just don't have enough direct flights. I remember this was a big issue when they were trying to woo GE to pick Rhode Island as its new headquarters, competing with Boston and maybe New York. There could be another place. And one of the things that held Rhode Island back, I was told by multiple people involved in the talks, including non-government people, was the GE executive saying, we just can't get a lot of direct flights to all our places around the country. We'd still be driving the Logan. So I think the strength of TF Green is definitely something that matters, and I think that's why you see such concern about the drop in passenger numbers this year and what that's going to mean for the strength of it going forward.
And it's not just flights, right? Because we see the Rhode Island delegation got a modest grant, $2.8 million, I think they announced earlier this year, to look at expanding Amtrak service in the state, and that means TF Green, right? I mean, they want to get Amtrak to the airport. Why is that important?
Yeah, well, I mean, the easier you make it, not just to use the airport, but to get out of the airport, to get back to Providence. Maybe you come down, you can see people coming from Boston to TF Green on the Amtrak if it's easier than going out to Logan, because Logan doesn't have a straight shot on the train. Logan, you have to go to South Station, get on the bus.
Silver line.
Exactly, then you're there. So I think the talk has always been, everyone says it's so much more convenient to use TF Green.
This is an editorial comment, but TF Green's much better than Logan in terms of convenience.
Logan is. My wife and I took a flight recently, and it was so long just to get through Logan to get there. But on the other hand, why were we at Logan? That was where we could get the direct flight to where we were going. So that's a trade-off. Why is Logan a pain? Because it's so busy with flights. And why is TF Green easy? Because There's not that many people there.
Can you do politics in 45 seconds?
Yeah, always.
All right, so 2 mayors, Bloomberg and Mayor Pete. Mayor Pete coming to Rhode Island this weekend. People watching on a Sunday. He's here on Sunday.
Yeah, that's right. We've been watching, right, Tim, for the presidential race to get more interesting in Rhode Island. And
Right.
we
Usually isn't.
It usually isn't. So Mayor Pete's coming, and I'm told that David Cicilline is actually going to introduce him at both his
that an
fundraising
endorsement?
events. Not an endorsement, as
Okay.
people quickly say, but clearly he's intrigued by Mayor Pete. And then, interesting, Mike Bloomberg now testing the waters all of a sudden.
Right.
And who did his people call? One of the people they called, Governor Raimondo, who's
Why?
been allied with Bloomberg for a number of years, because I think they see her as the kind of moderate Democrat with some national legs who might be able to help him get along. And she told me this week she's thinking about getting more involved at the presidential level in the coming months.
And she is the head of the DGA, so
Right.
there's some weight there. All right, Ted Nesi, thank you very much. If you missed our first half guest, the new mayor-elect, I should say, of Fall River, Paul Coogan, you can catch it on WPRI.com. We'll see you next week on Newsmakers.